a NoMoreStinkyMonkeys.com production. Well, we stopped our list at 2015, and now we're starting it again in 2020. So here we go, 5 years later. The youngest Beatle, the quiet Beatle, the nicest Beatle. Definitely the most underappreciated Beatle. But it was his biggest solo hit that made me a fan of his. And even though he lost a lawsuit for copying the song from someone else, it still doesn't diminish its greatness or his greatness in my eyes. And for that reason, he is number 160, George Harrison. George was born in Liverpool, England on February 25th, 1943. His mother, Louise, would listen to Indian radio when she was pregnant with him because she hoped the sitars and other Eastern instruments would soothe the baby. Well, it did. And what it did do is set him apart as the most musically adventurous Beatle and the one who altered the 60s music landscape the most from 1965 onward. George was taking a bus to high school when he ran into an older classmate named Paul McCartney. George had taught himself to play on an acoustic guitar his father bought him for £3. He had an early love for jazz and blues and tried out for Paul and John Lennon's skiffle band called the Quarrymen. His first tryout was good, but at 15, John thought he was too young. John was 18. He tried out again on the second deck of a bus sometime later, and John let him join the band. As a Beatle, he would get to record one or two of his songs on each album, but it was in 1965 when he discovered Bob Dylan and the Byrds and pushed the Beatles into going in a more folk rock direction that his influence was starting to be felt. At this time, he also fell in love with Indian music and played the sitar on Norwegian wood. It was the first time that Western pop music used Eastern music in a serious way, and it set a precedent that other artists jumped on. Some people who are not big Beatle fans still love George's songs because they really do stand out. On the White Album, there was While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and on Abbey Road, he had Here Comes the Sun and Something. Frank Sinatra recorded Something live twice and called it, quotes, the greatest love song of the past 50 years. John Lennon also thinks it's the best song on Abbey Road. When the Beatles broke up, George was finally given the creative freedom he longed for, and his first solo album was a classic 3-record set called All Things Must Pass. On it, he recorded my favorite of his songs, My Sweet Lord. Many years later, he was sued for using the beat of He's So Fine for the song, but I honestly believe George when he said it was unintentional. You listen to a million songs in your life, you probably don't even realize when a song you think you made up the sound for sounds like another from a recessed memory. Whether they share the beat or not, I love both classics. George enjoyed a very good solo career all the way up to 1987 with Got My Mind Set on You and When We Was Fab. As a film producer, he started a distribution company called Handmade Films and put out a few classics including The Life of Brian, The Long Good Friday, and Time Bandits, among others. While collaborating with ELO's Jeff Lynne, late in his career, he came up with a funny term for tapes of unused songs called We'll Bury Them, shortened to Wilbury. And thus, an all-star band was born of George's friends Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and Roy Orbison, the Traveling Wilburys. Their first album had a couple of classics, including Handled with Care. George died of lung cancer way too young at 58, but stellar, understated guitar work is considered amongst the best in pop history, and his folk and Eastern influences changed the course of rock and roll. Mostly his music always just makes me really happy. So when it comes to George, the smiles return into our faces. George, it seems like years since you've been here. Here comes the sun, da 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 da. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's alright. Do 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 do. From the Freditor.